Well, now today on the revolt, and it's cold again. I think it's colder than yesterday, but I don't have the wind. What I say, not as strong anyway. Bit of a dilemma today, because I want to stay off the main roads as much as possible, because of the low sun. But I'm cautious because some of the minor roads and bike paths are probably going to have icy patches on them. Volume of traffic using this lane though is encouraging. That means they should have cleared it all. And I'm filming with one camera today because I've spoken before about what a nightmare it is using GoPro cameras. Well, one of them is now only recording for about 20 minutes before it completely dies. And as I've said before, I do these videos in one take, you know, so I don't keep switching the camera on and off. Haven't decided yet what I'm going to replace it with, so at the moment we just got one camera. Oh, there's patches of ice there. And last week I went down this little road here and it was flooded. So I'm guessing, and there's probably still some icy patches on there. And what I wanted to talk about today is the bike industry. And is the bike industry in trouble? There's some quite serious discounts around, and places like Wiggle and Chain Reaction going into receivership, and it's a bleak picture. And obviously, I'm sure like me, if you're passionate about cycling, if this is your hobby, you want the bike industry to survive. And one of the problems, the biggest problem, was the pandemic. And I find this one really difficult to believe, because we're talking here about business people who should know what they're doing. But during the pandemic, when a lot of people were locked down and told they shouldn't go out of their house except for exercise. And on top of that, even the people who were working from home had time on their hands. Didn't have the daily grind of a commute. The boss wasn't looking over your shoulder. You get your work done without the distractions. So people had time. They started to get bored. And as I said, the only thing they could do to relieve their boredom was exercise. And the cycling industry was a big winner. And people started buying bikes left, right and centre. And the bike manufacturers struggled to keep up with the demand. And on top of that, factories were producing less because of the restrictions of the pandemic. So suddenly there was a shortage of bikes and a huge demand. And the manufacturers thought, this is great. And they started upping their production as much as possible. And the retailers were snapping up, stockpiling, because they didn't like the idea of telling their customers they couldn't have a bike when they wanted one. But as I said, These are supposed to be business people. And so the thing that surprises me is they thought this was going to go on forever. But it didn't. And it all came crashing down, and I think surely could have said, well, this isn't going to last forever. Let's put some aside. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. And it would appear not. All of a sudden, when the lockdown restrictions went away, people went back to the daily grind, and they didn't have time to ride their bikes anymore, and people stopped buying new bikes. And on top of that, a lot of those people who went back to the grind weren't actual cyclists. They were just looking for something to relieve the boredom during the restrictions. And so a lot of bikes became available on the second-hand market. And of course, that doesn't help the sale of new bikes. So everyone was in a bit of trouble, really. And it took them a while to cotton on. And as I've said, these are supposed to be people who know how to do business. First thing the Giant did was put all their prices up. I don't know how well they thought that was going to go. So a lot of companies were sitting there with their fingers up their bottoms, not really knowing what to do. And there was another problem as well, because during the boom times we put the prices up. When the boom ends, it's not that easy to just put the price back down again. It causes all sorts of problems. Customers who bought at a higher price get annoyed. And in the marketing business, they call it devaluing the brand. Which is why you see companies offer a product with cash back. Why don't you just take the £100 off the price of the product? Well, because that means the list price is lower and you've devalued your brand. Another big problem is the internet. You hear people all the time saying that they want to support their local bike shop, but then they find they can get the same part £20 cheaper online. And if you're buying a bike, it's huge savings. It's us, we're the ones to blame. I live in Bridgend and there's constant complaints about how the town centre is dying. All the retailers have gone. It's not a nice place to go shopping anymore. Quite amusingly, people think the council should do something about it. I'm not quite sure what people think the council can do. If somebody's business isn't viable, there we go. But the people complaining, they're sitting on Facebook complaining about the town dying while they're ordering something on Amazon. So really, what people want is the shops to be there so they can go and browse. But then they want to go and buy online, and then they seem surprised that the retailers can't make money like that. And it's the same in the bike industry. I mean, geez, you go down to your local shop, you see the bike you want, and it looks lovely, and they take their time and they show you how the bike works and whether it fits you nicely and all this sort of thing. And you go, yes, that's the bike for me. And then You go home and you think to yourself, oh, I'll read a review on that bike. And when you type in the make and model, Google throws up a load of adverts. And the same bike is something like £500 cheaper. And it's so difficult because the £500 is what it costs the retailer to pay his rent, to pay his staff, so that he's there for you, to show you the bike and give you the advice. That's what the £500 are for. But I don't have to go back to the shop, do I? I mean, I'm sitting here. He's done that for me. I could just click buy it now. And that's what several people do. But then they seem surprised when the bike shop isn't there next time they go down. And another thing is, in answer to the question, will the bike industry survive? I firmly believe it will. I think it's going to change the way we buy bikes. Our bike shop will turn into more of a service centre than a retail outlet. Some of the smaller companies will go, and that's a shame. But the industry as a whole will survive.